What if I told you there's a secret key to success? I'm talking about a guide that's just as powerful today as it was almost 100 years ago. Well, there is. It's Dale Carnegie's masterpiece, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And in this explainer, we're going to crack open its most fundamental, game-changing principles. Okay, first up, I want to show you a number that might just blow your mind. Research from the Carnegie Institute of Technology uncovered this incredible fact about financial success. And get this, it's not about being a technical genius. 85% of it comes down to your skill in what they call human engineering, basically your personality and your ability to lead people. Only 15% is from technical know-how. Just let that sink in for a moment. All right, so here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start with that 85% secret. Then we'll dig into why criticism almost always backfires. We'll uncover the one deep craving that literally drives every single one of us, figure out the huge difference between real appreciation and fake flattery, and then wrap it all up with a super simple 3-rule framework you can start using like today.
And look, that 85%, it isn't just some abstract number. I mean, John D. Rockefeller, one of the richest people to ever live, he laid it out in the plainest terms possible. He said, and I quote, "The ability to deal with people is as purchasable a commodity as sugar or coffee, and I will pay more for that ability than for any other under the sun." Wow. So yeah, the most valuable skill out there, it's not technical. It's all about people.
So if people skills are really that valuable, where do we mess it up? Where do most of us go wrong? Well, Carnegie points his finger at one huge, universal mistake: criticism, right? We think if we just point out what someone's doing wrong, they'll change. But the truth is, it does the exact opposite. And to really understand why, we've got to look at some pretty extreme examples. And I mean extreme. We're not talking about everyday folks here. We're talking about some of the most notorious criminals in American history. You take Al Capone, right? A ruthless gangster who basically ran Chicago. He didn't see himself as a bad guy. No way. He honestly believed he was a public benefactor who just wasn't appreciated. And it's the same story with other gangsters like Dutch Schultz and the infamous killer Two Gun Crawley. In their own minds, they never, ever blamed themselves. I mean, picture this. Two Gun Crawley, a known cop killer, is cornered by the police, his hideout is getting sprayed with bullets, and what does he do? He writes a note. And in that note, he paints himself as a kind-hearted victim. This is Carnegie's big point, and it's so important. Criticism just doesn't work. It's futile because it immediately puts people on the defensive. It wounds their pride, it attacks their sense of importance, and it just stirs up resentment. All it does is make them dig their heels in and justify what they did. You see this same psychology play out everywhere, right? From a simple argument at home to a tense meeting at the office. So, okay, let's bring this right back home. If these hardened criminals in prison don't blame themselves for anything, what does that tell us about the people you and I deal with every single day? You know, our coworkers, our family, our friends. When you criticize them, do you really think they're hearing your point? Or is it more likely that deep down, just like Crawley, they're busy finding ways to justify themselves? You've got to remember Carnegie's powerful metaphor for this. He said criticism is like a homing pigeon. It always returns home. The person you criticize is almost guaranteed to justify themselves and in turn condemn you. It is a complete lose-lose. It just doesn't create any kind of lasting positive change, ever. Okay, so if criticizing people is a total dead end, what's the alternative? What actually works? Well, Carnegie says there is only one way under heaven to get anybody to do anything, and that is by making the other person want to do it. And to pull that off, you've got to tap into the single most powerful driver in all of human nature. So what is that driver? Well, thinkers from Sigmund Freud to John Dewey all talked about it. Carnegie calls it the desire to be important. And it's not just some casual wish, you know? It's a deep, gnawing, persistent human hunger. It's the thing that really separates us from animals. It's this profound craving to be appreciated, to feel like our life matters, that we're significant. You know, the great psychologist William James put it perfectly. He didn't call it a wish or a desire, he called it a craving. And just think about how you see this play out in our world today, right? The endless chase for likes on social media, hoping for some recognition at work. It all comes from this exact same fundamental need. And here's the real secret. This deep craving is very, very rarely satisfied, which means the person who can honestly satisfy this hunger in other people will hold them in the palm of their hand. So, okay, the path to influencing people seems pretty simple then, right? Just give people the appreciation they're craving. But hold on. There is a massive, massive trap here that so many people fall right into, and that is the trap of cheap, shallow, insincere flattery. And believe me, there is a world of difference between real appreciation and flattery.
So let's just break down the difference because it's crucial. Appreciation is sincere. It's selfless. It comes from the heart. Flattery, on the other hand, is totally insincere. It's selfish. As Carnegie so brilliantly puts it, it's from the teeth out. One is admired by pretty much everyone, and the other is condemned by everyone. And trust me on this, people can spot phony flattery from a mile away.
If you want a perfect real-world example, look no further than Charles Schwab. Andrew Carnegie paid this guy a salary of over $1 million a year. Let me put that in perspective. That's more than $3,000 a day back in the early 1900s. So was he some kind of steel-making genius? Nope. Schwab himself admitted lots of guys knew more about steel than he did. He was paid for his incredible ability to handle people. And what was his secret? In his own words, "I am hearty in my approbation and lavish in my praise." He never criticized. He just believed in giving people the incentive to work. And that lesson in leadership is just as priceless in a tech startup today as it was in a steel mill 100 years ago.
All right, we have covered some really powerful stuff. We know that criticism is a total failure, and we know that people are driven by this deep, deep craving for appreciation. So now let's boil all of this down into a simple, actionable framework that you can use as a guide in your own life.
Here they are. These are the 3 fundamental techniques for handling people. Rule number 1, don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Just don't. It's a waste of time. Rule number 2, give honest and sincere appreciation. Remember, not that cheap flattery, but real, genuine recognition. And rule number 3, arouse in the other person an eager want. That means you've got to learn to see things from their point of view and frame what you want in terms of what they want.
So let's wrap this all up. What are the key takeaways? First, remember that 85% of your success comes down to your people skills. Second, criticism is futile. It just breeds resentment. Third, every single person you will ever meet is starved for sincere appreciation. And finally, if you can master these 3 simple rules, don't criticize, give real appreciation, and appeal to what others want, you will be unstoppable. And that really brings us to the end. But in a way, it's just the beginning, right? Because knowing this stuff is one thing, but doing it is everything. So I have a question for you, a challenge really. Look back at these principles. Which one of them, just one, can you commit to practicing today? Maybe it's as simple as biting your tongue the next time you're about to criticize someone. Or maybe it's giving a genuine, heartfelt compliment to a coworker or someone in your family. Just start with that one small thing. I promise you'll be amazed at the changes it can bring.